There it goes. I realized it was working before, but it wasn't working a while after that. So it was being a pain in the ass. Hey, dude. Thank you for coming back. Having issues with the computer, and everything was connecting. It was being pretty whack. Yay, it's back. I know, it was being stupid. And it wasn't updating on my screen. It showed that I wasn't streaming. But then the chat would come in, and then the video would click. It was just being all weird. So I don't know why I was doing it. So I apologize for the confusion there. Oh, I gotta check the plate number. All right. There we go. Saw your comment. Trying to bring the bearings. I wasn't trying to troll. I was just being serious. Like, what if that's what's going on? Like, it's great that it's breaking in, but what if it's not breaking in? It's just breaking. Like, it was and I wasn't saying like, oh, that's what's going on. I said, what if that would suck? And it would. That would absolutely suck if that was what was happening. Yeah. So I was just trying to be funny. I mean, it's that I've been excited about that engine since I first heard about it a long time ago, and the fact that it's making that kind of power on 13 pounds is a really good sign. What I thought was funny though is some people were like, oh, well, it's the same turbo, and now it's making more power on less boost. Like, yeah, dumbass, that's how it works. You go from a 2 to a 2.4 liter, you're going to make more power on less boost. That's what fucking happens. Or anything, you make more power on the same boost. Or at the same power, the boost is going to be less. Like, that's just how it fucking works. So I laughed a lot when I heard people talking about it. Well, maybe it's a bigger turbo. Maybe it's got a bigger compressor housing. Maybe it's got this. Maybe it's got that. Even though it's got the same part number. Probably not. It's because it's a 2.4 liter that has better flowing and everything than the 2 liter does. So, anyways, did anyone hear my 2.5 liter STi Swap thing yet? I don't think it did. I think it failed. And before I even get to talk about it. So, I'm going to start over unless someone says you heard it already. Let's hit the tack on this thing. There's a lot of noises in the car. $3,800. I'm not seeing comments coming again, so I don't know if it's fucking locked up again or what. Not yet. Okay. So there is a delay as well with the stream and what I'm seeing, unfortunately. Lifted ahead on my STi, 646, 30 pounds, 28 degrees. Holy shit. Yeah, I mean, it's not the AFP 2000s. It's the 20 degrees of timing. That'll fucking do it every time. Yeah, I don't think it matters what studs you have on it. With 20 degrees of timing on 30 pounds of boost, I think you're going to lift ahead. And if you don't lift ahead, you're going to squish your rod bearing out, or you're going to totally flatten the bushing in the rod. You're going to squish that out. Yeah, I wouldn't blame that on the studs. I mean, the studs, you're lucky the studs were weak enough to relieve the pressure before other stuff failed, because that's bottom end braking stuff right there. 20 degrees of timing on 30 pounds of boost. Holy shit. Don't do that. That's one thing I've been trying to stress to people for years, is that just because it doesn't knock doesn't mean you should keep adding timing. That's not how it works. Timing. All right. Yeah. You're not trying to add power with timing. You're trying to get this, time the combustion event correctly, so you have cylinder pressure at the appropriate points in crankshaft angle. But yeah, 20 degrees with 30 pounds, holy fuck. Now, if that was at, say, 8 or 9,000 RPM, 20 degrees, then that's okay. But if it was 20 degrees at 5,000 RPM, that's not okay. It's not okay at all. Even 6,000 RPM, you're up there. You're really risking it. But regardless, ARP 2000s aren't going to hold. Fuck, I mean, semi-closed deck ain't going to hold either. You should have a closed deck and half-inch studs minimum with that size turbo and anywhere near that kind of power. Alright, so first pull I just did, 5.8 horsepower. I didn't realize I was doing a pull. Alright, let's do this. Should cut. No. Thought I had to bring it too. No, let us know. Alright. Let's see what we got. The review tuner did. Oh, okay. Not sure about. Oh, yeah. Seatbelt. Sorry. I don't hear that shit, guys. Told you that already. It's not just because I'm deaf at 4,000 hertz, because I am deaf at 4,000 hertz, but because I've just grown immune to it. It's like having a wife ear, you know, when the wife nags you and you just fucking like don't hear it. That's that seatbelt chime. That seatbelt chime is the nagging wife that I've learned to tune out after 30 years of tuning. 20 years of which are just Subarus. Keep that to 30 years. I told someone, I was like, I've been like 25, 28 years, something like that. And I was like, wait, what year is this? Holy shit, it's been 30 years. 30 fucking years. That's longer than most of Subaru owners have been alive. I've been tuning cars and trucks. I started on trucks and cars. Carbureted ones. Mostly trucks, actually. But, wow. 30 fucking years. And I'm still learning shit. I'm still taking classes. I'm still reading books. I'm still reading papers. I'm still, you know, experimenting and doing stuff. After 30 freaking years. Not sure about that tuner. Stock block power chaser tuner. Oh, right. Yeah, him and that other guy, they like to do a lot of that power chasing stuff. Yeah, I see those threads on the interwebs. Like, I made 850 wheel on the stock engine. Like, yeah, man. Like twice, maybe. Not just that, but like, you got to question the dyno that reads that kind of numbers, and things haven't blown up yet. I'm reviewing the log right now. Obviously, this thing doesn't catch the second window. That's just what it does, so you're not going to see it. But no knock on that one. Timing looks good. A little conservative. Oh, I'm going to tune it. Let's see a little boost. Boost on that was 13 pounds, 14 pounds, based on where it was in the curve. At 4,500 RPM, I have 15 degrees of time on it at 13 pounds of boost. Probably don't want a whole lot more than that with pump gas, but that's not unsafe either. The mass airflow says 284 grams per second, which means I should make around 280 to 300 wheel. Honestly, that's what that usually means on this dyno, somewhere around there. And I made 266. So that typically means that my timing was too conservative, which I will take, because at 6,000 RPM, I have 17 degrees at only 14 pounds of boost. So the timing's a little on the conservative side, which again, that's good because this guy beats the shit out of this car. So, and AFRs were 11, 10, 8, 11. So I'll be able to show you guys that with the other phone. I gotta set that one down. Let's see. Let me pull that up. Yeah, look at that. That's in the phone here. I can take this with me, and I can look at how fat. I'm down 10 pounds even. It's the camera. It's totally the camera, right? Oops, wrong one. So now I switch the camera here. I like this Droid OBS app. It's pretty cool. Minus the watermark on the screen. So, see my before run. I really picked up a lot of horsepower. Hey John, how you doing? Flex fuel and Subaru Ascent. You know, I don't know yet. I don't think so yet. I mean, let me take that back. If you have the Cobb tuning available for the Ascent, you can run full-time closed loop on the Ascent if a tuner enables full-time closed loop. And then with full-time closed loop, you can add ethanol to the system until the system can't add any more fuel and compensate for it. Typically, you're looking like E30 is really safe. You can almost run E30 without even a tune, honestly. But if you have the tunability and enable full-time closed loop, then you can absolutely run higher concentrations of ethanol. In some cases, you might not want the closed loop full-time because it's going to target that rich AFR that is on pump gas. So you could leave it on a pump gas tune. Don't do full-time closed loop, add about 4 gallons or so per tank, which bumps up to E30 and will lean it out an appropriate amount. And then it runs quite good that way, honestly. It'll have some learned trims at low RPM. It's going to learn to add fuel down in the areas where you drive around daily and all that. But it's going to run pretty good up top. Let's see. By the way, I love the new BMW you got. Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad. I like it too. There are parts about it I love, and there are parts about it that I'm kind of bummed out about. I changed out some of the interior already on it because it looked cheap as hell. It didn't have the actual BMW leather. It had their Sensitech, which is just fancy vinyl. And the door cards look cheap. And I would sit in the car, and I'm like, this does not feel like... No, you're right. The mic is on the computer. I'm a dumbass. Yeah, I can change it over to the phone. Actually, it would probably be better. Actually, I think I set enable audio on the phone. I just might not turned it up. Let's see. So I have to deactivate it. I gotta enable audio. I gotta activate it.
There we go. Now I have two audios, so good echoes, I'm sure. Then we mute this one like that. Should be on the phone audio now. Is that better? There's a big delay on the stream to live, unfortunately. So I got a $20 donation again. Damn, dude. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm still going to send you J-hooks for your battery. I just have to wait for the right ones to show up. And then I was actually worried about the height of your battery because it might not be tall enough. So I don't know if based on what battery you have in there, if the spacer's still on there, if the J-hooks are too tall or too short or whatever. But I wanted to send you new J-hooks that were metric to match the nut for the thing. But I do need you to give me a measurement so we can ensure that the distance is correct. At least if you know difference between the battery you have and a regular Group 35. or tell me just which battery you have again, and then send to me in Discord or whatever, and then I will measure that battery, because I'm sure I got some other else out here with that same battery versus a 35, and make sure that the battery height is correct. So thank you again. Do I still read spark plugs? A little bit, not a lot. It's not the same, because reading spark plugs is often done wrong anyways, because you have to run it in that condition that you're trying to read, like at power, hard, shut it off, and pull them out immediately. Because as you operate the car in other regions, it changes the way the spark plug is deposited, the heat profile, all that. It'll mess up the readings. So the correct way of reading spark plugs is you're on the dyno, you get everything where you want it with a fresh set, you rip on it, and you just beat the shit out of it in that zone that you want, and then you shut it off and you pull them out and you look at them. Because like I said, as you operate it in other modes, you're going to get different results. Checking points, yeah, no, I don't enjoy points checking. Typically everything I do now is going to have an optical or magnetic or reluctor style pickup, and even if it's got like an MSD 6AL or whatever, it's going to have an optical or some other pickup on it. And carb jets, yes, I still occasionally carb jets, not too often, because I don't have my carb jet kits anymore. I don't even know where the fuck they are, to be honest with you. I haven't seen them in the last couple moves, so I don't know what happened to my jet kit. No idea. It could be in some box somewhere buried, but I would think in the last 3 or 4 moves I would have found them, but I haven't. I found a kit that had a couple jets and a couple metering rods for Millbrock in it, and a couple power valves for a Holly. And that was it. It wasn't even near as complete as my collection used to be, so I have no idea. Maybe I left with my dad or something, no idea. So, but thank you again for the $20. I appreciate it. You're always coming in with these freaking donos. I don't know what to do with them. Should I like sing and dance or something? Do I need to start doing the chicken dance? I don't know. Oh, maybe the front view will be fun. Let's see. Front? No. Back. We can see the dyno in the parking lot. Look at that fucking graveyard of cars out there. That's a lot of cars getting worked on. That's only what you can see right now at this angle. Okay, the craze with GTR coils. I haven't seen testing on the Subaru coil. I do know that guys run the Subaru coils to 1,000 fucking horsepower and that kind of stuff. So I haven't seen any actual testing. I know that a lot of guys buy aftermarket coils because their coils aren't enough, or they think they're not enough, and what it really is that they're just worn out. Like the Subaru coil wears out. It's got it's subject to a lot of heat, and when you have a lot of heat, shit happens. So the interior parts degrade. They're also subject to a lot of water, and when they get water in them and everything, not the coil, god damn it, the core. My brain is just skipping right now, thinking all these other things at once. So the core, right? You have a laminated core in the coil, and you can see it because it comes outside the pack, and you bolt that laminated core through, the bolt goes through it that holds it to the engine. That is part of the coil. That is an essential part of the coil. The sheets are laminated. You see how it's layered, if you were to look at one. Those laminated sheets, what they do is they laminate them so that it steers the magnetic flux and the current in that, in the loop. If it was just a solid chunk of metal, it would still behave, but you would get what they call eddy currents. You would get all these currents that drift around inside there and would actually end up creating more heat and raising the resistance and making it less effective. So to laminate the core, by laminating the core, you eliminate all those eddy currents going side to side on the coil, and you help steer them in a round-around fashion. And so that coil is imperative, or that core is imperative for the coil's operation, because you have to couple the magnetic fluxes between the primary and the secondary coil for the amplifying action of a coil to even occur. When those start to get rusty and you get rust in between the layers and they start to delaminate and stuff, your coil becomes less effective. And so a lot of guys think, oh, my coils are trash, these super coils suck, but their coils are rusted to shit, right? They're rusted, they're not good anymore, and they buy other coils and they go, oh wow, these coils are awesome because my misfire problem went away. But they might not be awesome. They might just be as good as stock, or less than stock, but better than what they had. And so unfortunately, since humans are so programmed for man, my brain is not working today. I don't know words today. For correlation, right? We're programmed to correlate things. Since we're so heavily programmed for correlation, they go, oh, well, I took out a stock coil, I put in this coil, and my problem went away, therefore it's better. And it's usually not even the case. It's usually that the other one, the one they had, was just worn out. Now, some dudes down in Australia, I cannot remember the name of them. I've linked their video 100 times to people. They did a big, huge coil test. They tested all these coils, cheap ones, expensive ones, Toyota coils, GTR coils, all that stuff. And what they found out was that the GTR coil was one of the highest output coils available for the dollar. I think one of the Audi coils actually made a little more power, but it was so much more expensive that it was, didn't make any sense, kind of cost prohibitive. And what they didn't do though is they didn't test the Subaru coil in that batch. And so we don't know what the Subaru coil would have done in the test that they held and how it would have compared to the other ones. But people see that and go, oh, the GTR coil is great, and they just buy the GTR coil. But like I said, I've seen lots of Subarus doing 1,000 wheel, well, 1,000 wheel, right? I don't know, they're fucking Mustang Dyno or what, on the factory coil packs. So I don't think that there's necessarily a reason to go with an aftermarket coil pack on these cars. I do know that they respond well to a slight bump in dwell. If you have a good coil pack and you bump the dwell a smidge in the tune on these things, they usually respond pretty well. I get pretty good results out of that. But you gotta be careful. You go too high in dwell and you'll burn a coil pack out. If you were here for my motor lecture, when I talked about catalytic motor force in a motor, that's almost the same reason why a coil pack burns out. The field will only get so large and it'll stop growing. So if you apply too much dwell, the field grows while you're applying voltage to it. And if you do it for too long and the field just slows down and stops growing, then if the field's not moving and growing, it's not generating voltage in the opposite direction of the voltage that made the field happen. And so your current starts going up. And the current starts going up and they start getting hot and you start burning them out. And if you do it for a really, really long time, then the current just goes way too high and they burn it really fast. So you got to be careful with dwell. If you put too much dwell on a coil, that field will grow and then slow down. Current will start to go up and up and up and up. The coil will overheat, it'll get hot, things will blow out in them, and then everything's toast. So, you have carb jets, and I'm throwing out side feed injectors. Yeah, well, it's because side feed suck. Alright, so that pull wasn't full throttle, it was like a partial throttle pull, so I'm going to do a full throttle one and see if it's going crazy or what. Feedback knock on that one. It didn't feel very smooth. I didn't like how that felt. It felt a little like the butt felt it got and the air fuels were rich on the top end. It went really rich. It went to 10.0 over 5,000. And even though the boost was higher, the power was only 18 horsepower higher. So why? Right? Why? Well, it didn't feel very clean, for one. Why did it feel clean? I don't know. The timing is pretty conservative. It's got at this boost level now through 5,500. I got 15 degrees on it, and red line was only 19 degrees. So for an STi head, that is not enough timing. to make good power and have a good clean combustion, that just isn't enough. So I'll need to add timing for sure. The boost pressure on that went up to 17.5 pounds gradually. Wastegate duty, it went to 0 for a little while because my target is, looks like the target is actually a little bit lower than wastegate spring pressure on here. At 3,500, I got 14 pounds of boost and only 10 degrees of timing on it. What's interesting though is I had that knock event at 14 degrees of timing with 11 pounds of boost on it, down at 2,900. And the air fuels were 11.8-ish. So really, it shouldn't have knocked there. That seems like a weird spot for the knock. The timing, I mean, it's only 11 pounds. That might be a smidge aggressive. I could drop a degree or two out of it. These are STi heads. STi heads burn slower, and they don't typically have that kind of issue in them. Intake ABCS is 25 degrees at that point in time. Exhaust is 20, so I have some overlap in there. I should still have a pretty significant positive delta, and by that I mean the pressure ratio across the engine is still greater than 1, being the intake. The boost should be higher than the back pressure at that point, so I should have significant overlap flow during that period, which removes extra heat. But it also has the issue that too much overlap flow will also pull fuel out of the cylinder. It'll blow your fuel charge into the exhaust system, and your air fuel reading won't be accurate. And the way to combat that is with injector timing, and it only does a little bit. It'll do it at the shorter pulse widths at lower times, but I'm pretty sure the injector timing here is probably too aggressive in that region, and that's why I'm getting some of that blow-through effect. Yes. So you'll see there's less here, and there's even less here on the factory tune. And because it was so aggressive with this little turbo, I'm going to reduce this some more. About here. Oh no, down here too. I'm going to do this whole section. I'm going to reduce this down. Let's see if I can reduce my overlap flow. No. Reduce the amount of fuel carried over in overlap flow. I need to be more specific on that. The overlap flow is even the same, so I'm not changing cam timing. And this doesn't have D420 either. I don't know what's going on here. That's why I'm experimenting with cam time, injector timing on. So what we're trying to do is, this is degrees before top dead center. So what this means is that this is advanced injector timing. It's happening a long time. It's sitting on the valve for a long time. Then the valve's open, and when the exhaust pressure is higher, which is the case at idle, some of that fuel gets puked back. It gets blown backwards in the manifold a little bit, and then it gets sucked into the cylinder. The reason I'm doing this is because these are really big injectors, and the pulse width is really, really small. And when you have a really small pulse width from a big injector at a low airflow rate, that fuel goes right through the air and hits the port wall. There's no air molecules in the way for the fuel to hit. So if I advance the timing, then it hits that port wall and then has more time for the heat to cause it to vaporize, more time for the air going by to strip the fuel off of the port wall. If I leave that into timing really late, then I could technically do it so late that it happens when the intake valve is open and the exhaust valve is already shut. You can technically do that, but you don't get very good atomization with an injector like this, because most aftermarket injectors are a narrow cone, and even if you were to do that, they typically hit the port wall anyways, so it wouldn't do you any good. Now if you had a perfect atomizer plate that was directing all of the fuel right at the back of the intake valve, none of it was hitting the port wall, then doing that would be very advantageous, because you would waste none of the fuel, and it would go right into the cylinder, bounce on the back of the valve, cool the valve, and then atomize and blow into the cylinder. But the problem is that's not happening. With a narrow cone injector, like all of the aftermarket injectors pretty much, you have this cone that ends up hitting, it's just a tube of fuel that's, like, it's a cone that expands out, and the port goes down like this in the head away from the injector. Injector shoots, and that cone comes out, it hits the ports, and so no matter what you do, you're getting port contact. So if you get a lot of port contact, you inject it earlier so that the fuel has time to atomize and get in the cylinder. But in this high high flow rate or high overlap flow portion, having all that fuel come in too early definitely affects your ability to control how much fuel gets into the engine versus goes out the exhaust. So I'm gonna pull a ton out right here. See, I gotta reflash this change. This is a big change, right? I got 200 degrees difference almost in timing on this port, so on this injector. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna copy this to both maps, and we're gonna see with no other changes how the car behaves. Oh, I guess it's not, because it's only 295/34, so it's 90-degree change in injection angle. I might need to go more than that. Well, let's think about it. This is degrees before top dead center on the combustion stroke. So 180, so 200. Oh, that actually is pretty retarded. That is at the very end of the, that might be too much. That might be too much. It's 20 degrees before bottom dead center, going down on the intake stroke. That's the end of injection. And this pulse width, let's see, let's inject pulse width. Pulse width, do I have that logged? I usually don't with big injectors because I almost never need to know it. Because they're so big, I don't gotta worry about any of that. So we're not gonna go that far. This is back. No, fuck it. We're gonna go that far just to see the difference and see what it does. So you guys can see what's going on too. This has got top feed 1050s in it, I believe. Yeah, 1050s. Alright, so I can disconnect from the ECU. And I need to flash this. Alright, flishy flash. What was it before? 290? 290 is end of injection. That's what, 60, 70 degrees after the intake stroke starts. That actually wasn't that bad. That was actually a pretty good spot. I wasn't thinking right. So that's not really too bad. We'll find out. Let's see what 200 degrees does. It probably won't like it. We'll see. It's still a really short pulse width. With a 1050 at low RPM, at relatively low load compared to what that thing is, low horsepower level, it's a pretty short pulse width. So I'm gonna get a lot of that squirt around where I set this map. Alright, reflash is complete. Reconnecting the ECU. What time is it? 12. Alright, I got a couple hours. I gotta go tune a Porsche here later on. And it's not a modern Porsche. It's a 90, 80, 87? I think it's an 87 Porsche, if I recall correctly. So it's an 87 Porsche with a built motor, turbocharger, Link G4 on it, a bunch of stuff. Should be a good time. It's a white one, big whale tail on it, you know. Pretty sure it's 87. ABCS is active, O2 sensor is active and functioning. Everything is out of its warm banded fuel. Final is in the 14s and 15s, so we know it's working. Right now it says 16, which means we're in an evap purge cycle right now. It's doing a purge cycle. Wow, banded fuel 19. So we're in a big purge cycle right now. It's sucking a lot of pressure out of the fuel tank. And the fuel tank pressure is starting to drop now. You see it up to 20. And so the commanded fuel is dropping again. So it had a high purge valve activity at this point, which makes sense. The car's sat, the fuel's getting warm. It's going to get a lot of vapor in it. Pressure's going to go up. Then we're going to start the car and it's going to try and suck that pressure back down. So interesting. You can watch that with the commanded fuel final right here on the right side of the screen. All right, let's do this. Something made noise out there. I don't think it was the car though. I think it was the cam sensor that was on the shelf over there falling off onto one of the dyno rollers. But I'm not even gonna bother looking. Okay, so there was zero knock there. Okay, which is good to know. There was zero knock. I'm gonna go look at the air fuel real quick on the graph. Air fuel indicated very slightly leaner. Power went up a little bit. Let's see here. We'll pull those two last graphs. I'll move all these water bottles out of the way. I'll do some other stuff here. Boost is identical. Alright, let me get my camera and show you. Let me double check them on the right direction. Yes, we are. Alright. Fuel indicator a little bit cleaner here. Power went up a little bit through that region. This is where I adjusted it up to 30 something 100. I don't know if that, I mean, I can't say that, oh, that's only that fuel adjustment. It's the only adjustment I made, but run to run, you can get some differences. But still, that cleaner, felt cleaner through here. You see it gets really rich on the top end, which I need to address. I don't know, I got to double check whether it's mass airflow or whether it's just my fuel map's going really rich right there. I haven't looked at it. This was a break-in map, so it's probably just I got set really rich. Oh. Not speaking. Oh, good. I love it when they hang up on me when they call. It's all those computers and shit. I get spam calls every fucking day. I figured that was gonna be one. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so that was good. Do I have a favorite turbo? That's that totally depends, man. That's so vague and non-specific. I couldn't answer that question. My favorite turbo manufacturer is Garrett, but that doesn't mean I always run a Garrett turbo. You know, I run some Borg Warners, I run yeah, that's pretty much it. Usually just Borg Warner and Garrett. And Blauk turbos for factory location. Like this has got a 16 GXT, I believe. Is it 16 or 18? I think it's a 16 because it comes in really quick. Nope, this one's 18G. 18 GXT on it. And I really like it. I like it for the power band. I like it for how fast it spools on these cars. I've been using the DOMs a lot over the years and recommending the DOM a lot over the years, but I don't know. It's just kind of falling away from my favor because I'm seeing how well some of these old TD05s still do, and it's stupid how good some of these TD05s still do. I don't even understand how they're doing so well with them. But I use a lot of Blauk. I use a lot of Blauk TD05, 16Gs and 18Gs, especially lately, since I've been having so many of them perform better than the DOM. Like, it doesn't make sense. I don't feel like they should be outperforming the DOM turbos. You know, they're ball bearing. They supposedly have higher flow rates than these 18Gs and stuff. But you know, turbos aren't just about flow rates. There's a lot to a turbo outside of just flow rate. It's about balance and applicability of all kinds of stuff. So I just feel like that these 18Gs and 16Gs are doing better than the DOMs, which sounds weird. I don't know if maybe Lauk has had some quality control issues lately, and what I'm seeing is just a degradation in the quality control, making the Dominator turbos not as good as they used to be. But yeah, it's really insane, honestly, how good. I'm gonna have a little more fuel right here. I want to slow right here. It's really insane how good these 18Gs and 16Gs are on cars, even STIs. Like I had one the other day that did 370 wheel, and that's more than the DOM usually does on this dyno, and I was just blown away. And I was like, that can't be. That'd be a fluke, right? That's just totally a fluke. And then I did another one. I did the same freaking thing, and I was like, what the hell is going on? So yeah, it's something. Do I like 20Gs? No, I don't. This isn't his base map anymore, so you change the name of that. No, I don't like 20Gs. I don't think very good balance for the car. 20G is getting in that realm where there's way better options. This car's gonna be about 19 psi. It's probably what we're gonna at the end of it. I don't know what a stock location Mamba turbo is. I know I have a Mamba housing on a VF, and I know I have that Garrett G25 hybrid with the Mamba housing on it, and it did terrible. I know the VFs with the Mamba housings do really good. The P20 on the VF turbos usually pick up 20 wheel out of them. Boost drops, of course, because the back pressure drops, and that's great because if back pressure drops, that means we're retaining less heat in the cylinders, and we're gaining reliability out of it, and we free up 20 horse. And the spool impact is very slight. The P20 is just such a good combo. And the P20 housing has a larger wastegate on it, bigger wastegate door, so no more boost cube problems, none of that too. So I like that a lot. I really thought the Mamba housing on the Garrett clone was gonna excel, and it did bad, really bad. So yeah. All right. So I adjusted the fuel up top because it was way too rich. We're gonna pull. That was a lot smoother. I really liked the way that felt. Power didn't go for shit. 8 horse. 8 horse with an AFR change. I mean, it's not bad, right? It's not bad picking up 8 horses by changing AFR. So, that's good, I should say. I did get a knock event, though, at 5,500. Which is really weird to me. It's only got 14 degrees there. But it is 17 degrees, 17.5 degrees of timing, so, you know, maybe it's a little too much. You wouldn't think so. Boy, that sure is a nice looking power curve. I mean, it's only 3 wheel right now, but it sure looks nice. Really nice. So at 55, I've already zeroed out the intake, and that might not be the call. I mean, the power is going up pretty quickly in that region, so that might be the call, but no, it doesn't look like it's the call. What's the knock event on there? I gotta double check if this is a forged motor, I forget. which one is forged or not. So yeah, I've never tested their complete turbos. I have no idea. I mean, it's a cheap turbo in theory, right? So maybe it's just behaves like a cheap turbo. I don't know. Never ran one. Hey, Damon. I saw your piece of shit up here on the lift. It took all my willpower to keep from slashing on the tires just looking at it. Ugh. Why would you do a bug-eye conversion on a GR, dude? I don't get it. Ran a bunch of ABCS to this thing. Let's see what it does. See this, how much this shapes the power curve. See whether it likes it or doesn't like it. Because, you know, I can guesstimate what the back pressure is on the engine at this point, but you know, I don't know for sure because I'm not measuring it on this. So we're gonna have a whack of cam advance up to the point where that spot happened, where that knock event happened, just to see what it does, see how it behaves. So I'm gonna add a lot. You see how much timing I've added here. This is intake cam advance. I'm gonna double check the exhaust. It's still pretty aggressive through here. Yeah, 17. Right, we're gonna drop this down too. I'm gonna put this whole block here. 17. Right there. That. And then we're gonna find out. And that's what you gotta do with a lot of these cars. Sometimes you just have to experiment and figure out what it likes, where it's gonna make power, where it's not gonna make power. And cam timing is critical in doing that. And a lot of tuners have what they call their ideal cam maps. But that's bullshit, because there is no ideal cam map for all platforms or all builds, because the back pressure changes significantly based on what headers are on it, what intake's on it, what turbo's on it, all that stuff. So it's dumb. Don't pick on bug guys. Picture said bug guy. STi didn't really do it, John. Damon and I go back and forth joking a lot. 2.5 liter to equals STi. Don't you read the internet? Yeah, I mean, it also means WRX. You know, from, I don't know, 06 to 14. How'd you explain with all that info you got in there? You know what? There's room for more. And I definitely wish there was more in it, because there are things I am weak on that I wish I was strong on. Like programming, I wish I was better at programming. I wish I was better at math than I am. I'm obviously better than the average person. I have a lot of training in it and that kind of stuff, but I wish I was better. I wish I was better at understanding time and space. My brain is so good with the physical world and how things interact physically, and that's why I got a degree in physics, I guess, right? But I have a hard time with some of the really crazy theoreticals, things that defy, you know, the accepted laws of physics. I have a hard time with sometimes. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm incapable of understanding things. Like, I have a theory on how gravity is not even a force, and it was something that my physics teacher laughed at me when I told him, and then 3 semesters later came back and said, holy shit, I think you're right, I'm sorry for laughing at you. So there's things like that that I can do, but again, we're looking at physical interactions, in this case just physical interaction of matter that we can't see yet or detect yet. And that's not that hard, but for some reason time-space fucks with me, and all that. So there are definitely things I wish I was better at, and I wish I could get in my brain better. I wish I was more confident, honestly. I wish I was more confident. I wish that I wasn't so sometimes I'm afraid of confrontation, and I wish I wasn't so. So there's things that I can improve on for sure. I wish I was a baller. I wish I was a little bit taller. Yeah, you know, just kidding. I hate basketball. Let's see. I ruined Lane's day and I told him we were in a simulation. And I started providing him evidence for it. He was like, man, you've really fucked my day up. That was pretty funny. I was like, yeah, man, you know the Big Bang? He's like, yes. You know, so they say that there was the bang, and then there was this great expansion, they call it, this expansion period where you went from this singularity to all that exists. All the matter in the universe that's going to be there and it's ever going to be there, it's there now, right? And that period of time, everything expanded at greater than the speed of light. And then after that time, everything was limited by the speed of light. And everyone's had a really hard time trying to figure out, how does that make sense? And I said, well, that's easy. That's because we're in a computer. And he was like, what? And I was like, well, think about it. When the power's off, there is nothing. And then you hit the power switch, and then there is everything. And that everything shows up at greater than the speed limit on the computer, being the bus speed. But from that time on, everything is limited by the bus speed of the computer. And that's just like the universe. There was nothing. You hit the power switch, there was everything, and now everything is limited by the speed of light. And he was like, it just looked at me. He was like, holy shit. And I laughed about it for a bit. But I was like, yeah. I was like, we could very well be in a simulation. Like, there's a lot of evidence saying that we could very well be in a simulation. And it was pretty funny. You know, like in your computer, you don't add mass to it, right? You get more data, but you don't add mass. So it was pretty funny. He was really blown away by that. And that was a concept that I came up with myself one day, just analyzing the universe and that kind of stuff. So Jack, you live in Utah, huh? Ah! Is there a point where you like to switch to external wastegates, if any reason to switch from internal to external, if boost control is good already? Hello, Paco. Welcome to the stream, Paco. I am currently contemplating a question that was asked of me. Let's see. Trying to answer this strategically. So, an external wastegate's primary function is that of boost control. And if your boost control is already good, then you don't need to change the external wastegate for superior boost control. But an external wastegate also has a secondary function. I don't want to say function, I would say a benefit. And that benefit could be reducing back pressure. If the external wastegate goes to atmosphere, and if your exhaust is adding a restriction and creating a differential pressure from the exhaust or the turbo outlet to the tailpipe, the atmosphere, then you can reduce total flow rate in your exhaust by utilizing an external wastegate and by doing so, you can reduce back pressure. Now, if you're trying to run such a high boost number that your wastegate practically shuts anyways, then you're not going to get that benefit. But if you're in a situation where your wastegate is relatively open, and that would be, you're not hearing a chuck, 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 because the gate's shutting, you know, trying to get the boost up. If you have a smooth wastegate sound because the gate is just held open to control your boost, then you will gain a benefit. And in some cases, in testing many years ago, actually John Drenus and I were doing the same thing, probably 2007, maybe 8 or so. We were, and another tuner that doesn't even tune anymore at another shop on the East Coast too. There was 3 tuners. We were all like, we'd all shoot the shit, exchange information, and talk and stuff. We were seeing on a decent sized turbo, you know, like a FP Green or above sized turbo. At the time, an FP Green was 49 pounds per minute. They're more than that now. So something in the 49, 50 pound range turbo. We were seeing about 20 wheel horsepower gain by using an external gate at the medium boost levels. But as you raise the boost levels and the gate started to shut, that gain would go away. So if your boost control is already good and you're really maxing out your system, yeah, I see no reason to go with external. But if your boost control isn't good, or you're not fully maximizing the turbo, and you're looking for, you know, a little more mid-range stuff, then external wastegate vented atmosphere can help. Now, that being said, those are legal now. So an external wastegate to atmosphere is illegal, and as such, I can't fuck with it anymore. So all of ours and our turbo kits are recirculated back in, pre-cat. Okay, so there was a power increase up top. 10 horse. I got 10 horse out of it. That's a pretty good thing, and all I did was change cam timing. I still only have 14 degrees of timing on this thing. Let's see, 13 at 5,000. So not a lot of timing on here, ignition timing, but cam timing improved the top end. But made no change to the area below that at all. Let's see if I can show you that. Let me bring up my stream so I can see what you guys are seeing. Why did it reverse itself? Did I hit something? Why am I in right-hand drive mode? Has it always been that way? You're welcome, Jack. Okay. That button? Ah, there it is. Okay. Alright, so you'll see through the mid-range, no gains. But then at 5,500, there was a gain. Now over 5,500, I didn't do much of the intake. I left that around 0, but I did change the exhaust. And the direction that I changed the exhaust reduces overlap and typically will increase exhaust and blowdown, which reduces back pressure. And yeah, I got 9 horse out of it. You can see air fuel's the same. I didn't touch timing. That's just a cam timing change. Not bad. Not bad. I will do it. I must have just touched that thing at the top of the screen. I didn't know that even existed with that. It's kind of a cool app. It's called Droid OBS, and it just turns my cell phone into camera, feeds to the thing, and I can hook up as many as I want, so I can run 10 cell phones if I want to get all my Androids out and hook 10 cell phones up to the thing and just put them around the car. Obviously, I need lots of battery power for that. All right, let's see. Paco asks, I'm a proud owner of a 2007 JDM WRX with a 2-liter. Make 450-ish horsepower. Well, Paco, my question is, wheel or crankshaft? Because the 2-liter engine is not like 450 wheel without a lot of reinforcements. So you're going to need to strengthen the rod, strengthen the block, strengthen the head studs, or go to a strong head stud, and then go to some cams. If it's a 207, you're just pretty much going to need studs and cams and springs. The 207 cams just don't flow that well. At least the ones we get over here that we import in just don't do great. In fact, they have a really high rev limit of almost 9 grand, right? But the power is dropping after 7. So why run it to 9 grand other than just to say you can, which is a very Japanese thing. A lot of Japanese car culture is doing stuff just because you can, whether or not there's any performance out of it, is something that does happen a lot in the culture. The ability to just say, I'm running this much boost, is kind of a thing, whether or not it's correct or efficient or anything like that. It is kind of how the culture, at least that's how it was in the mid 2000s to 2010s. I haven't been there in 15 years now, so I don't know much has changed, but that's why a lot of the stuff you see in Japanese cars is just a ton of gadgets, because it's just all about having that whiz-bang gizmo, and that's why Defi gauges always rate boost high by a few PSI. It's just their culture is, having more stuff in that. At least I said that's how it was when I was there. So it was more about the things and the gadgets than it was the actual sheer performance or power. So being a 205, yeah, you definitely are gonna want a stronger block, or at least head studs. So at least 205's got thick sleeves. Based on which 205 it is, I don't know if it's the really big 205 or the regular 205, but the 205 rods aren't going to handle it, and you're just going to need an engine build really for that. If it's a legitimate 450, I mean, I can make a fake 450. I can go to a Mustang and click four mouse clicks and make it 800 horsepower, but it ain't real, because Mustang dynamic calibration is extremely easy to fuck with. Most Mustang owners do to some degree. So vent atmosphere is not illegal here in Canada, but we're heading that way, I'm sure. Yeah, it probably is illegal because you are you're bypassing the catalytic converter, so you have exhaust gas that's not going to the cat. Now that being said, cats don't work that effectively at full throttle. Air-fuel ratios are quite a bit richer. There's a lot of flow through them. They don't work that effectively at full throttle anyways. So it's really annoying that they're such cunts about it, because you're getting a fraction of catalytic reaction at full throttle than you get when you're cruising on the highway. Just a fraction. So it's just our cunty fucking government that needs to get shot in the face, basically what it goes down to. Almost everybody in it, really. The people need to take the power back. Probably yours too, especially Trudeau. That guy needs to get hung. That guy's a dipshit. Rights violating cocksucker Trudeau is. Let's see. Anyways, I won't get too political in this. This is what's got cars. Wait till you do seconds. So I got it set at 60 on the high side, and my log is showing that I don't need anywhere near that to hit our targets currently. So I mean, right here, well, that's just my target. So let's bump the target up. We're at that point now. Things have been pretty good. I'm gonna bump this boost target up some. Wait, it is up. Oh, my axes are off. Oh, yeah, 3,000 right there. Let's bump this up. So I don't be too aggressive with this car because, like I said, this guy is really hard on it, from what I'm told. And so with that in mind, I need to be strategic about how I tune it, because I don't want it to, you know, expel rods or pistons from the engine, that kind of thing. So I have to be strategic about it. And you're gonna need to email contact regarding my link calibration. Cars gonna come out of the shop soon. Good. Yeah, we're like a year behind on that, dude. I've been waiting for you to get this thing going so we can do this. Would a custom 4-inch back with a 4-inch high flow cab be sufficient for a recirculating external wastegate set up on 2 net loaded? I mean, that's a really generic question. Again, I can't say that because there's no power figures, there's nothing to support that. A 2-inch could be sufficient, you know, based on the power number and all that. So I can't answer that question. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know the answer to that. We need to know power numbers and what cat, the manufacturer, how many cells it is, what its operating pressure is. I can't answer those questions. I don't know enough about how many aftermarket cats are out there and what their specs are on it, so I can't honestly answer that. Obviously, the bigger the diameter, you know, of the cat and all of that, generally the more it the more it should flow, right? Yeah, Paco, most of us already have 3-inch exhausts, you know, on our cars. Most already have 3-inch exhausts. That's like the first step you take with these cars usually. So if your car's bone stock right now, then I would start with a turbo back exhaust, whatever's legal in your area, or illegal, whatever you're willing to go for. That's 3-inch, and then a tune. You know, those two things that'll add some power to it. Obviously, you're not going to get 400 something out of it. A VF turbo is only good for around 360, 380 based on which VF it is. What do you normally set up fuel economy pressure factor with 1050? 1.76, I think, is what I use for 1050s. I think 1.67 for 1000s, something like that. Traction control kicked on. That means I got a lot more boost down low than it. Yeah, oh yeah. Big gains down low. Okay. Let's do this again. No. Overtime. At what point in time in advance do you usually see power start to drop off? What point in time in advance do you see power start to drop off? That is not a question that can be answered. They're not related like that. So at any point where timing is less than ideal timing, power will drop off. But that point it varies. Like there's no such thing as saying, oh, it's 7. You know, that's not how timing works at all. If you want to know how timing works, I recommend getting into my Discord and reading my lecture on ignition advance, where I talk about what ignition advance actually is and what you're trying to do with it. Because that question shows a gross misunderstanding of what timing even does. And so I think that you would benefit greatly by going in there and reading the lecture that I have on ignition advance. And it's pretty complete. I talk about what's happening inside the engine. That's 390. I show cylinder traces inside the engine, pressure traces, so you can learn about how all of that works. I would recommend doing that. Now that's in the subscribed portion of it, so you need to buy the subscription for the tuning class. But yeah, that's not even. Nobody can answer that question because it doesn't exist. There's no answer to that. So I'm sorry. Timing is based on burn speed. It's based on engine load. It's based on engine geometry. It's based on back pressure. It's based on charge temperature. It's based on fuel type. It's based on the previous 5 combustion events. It's based on a lot of stuff. And yeah, there's no answer to that. On my website, there's a link to my Discord channel. You can go and see what's in there. And like I said, there's an education section. It is subscription based for the education section because, but it's cheap. There's no one's teaching tuning for less than I am. It's actually way too cheap, really. It should be quite a bit more than that. And eventually I will make it more. All right. Well, we broke free on the wheel. There's a little bump in power down low. Really interesting bump, actually. I want to look at that log again, because that log is really interesting. Buy the subscription. Yeah, man, I have. So after you do it, there's instruction on the website. You go to GetaDomTune.com, click on shop, go to the tuning category. In the tuning category, it'll show the Discord subscription. In there, you pay for it there, and then it tells you got to email me, or in your order comments, put your username. And then when you put your username on there, when I get to where I can get to the computer, then I will. And you got to log into the server first. Once you're in the server and I see your username, then I can upgrade you to a student, and then the student will get access to the educational section. It's hidden if you're not a student, so you won't even see it until you're a student. And then I have, I think, 6 lessons in there right now, with discussions, but they're pretty complete. And I try not to focus just on Subarus, but a lot of them have Subaru information in it. But it's, all engines operate the same with ignition advance. How much depends on the engine, like I said, all those factors I was talking about. And I left out combustion chamber design, valve location, as well, which are huge factors in burn speed. Combustion chamber and piston, dish, or dome are gigantic factors in burn speed, as well as overlap flow and all kinds of stuff. So I do talk about almost all those subjects in there. GSC valve springs, they seem pretty good. I haven't had any issues with them. The biggest thing with valve springs on Subarus is a lot of guys, yeah, it's definitely, a lot of guys that put valve springs in Subarus don't do it correctly. They don't check the install height. And that's like the #1 thing to do when installing a valve spring in any engine, is you verify the install height. If you have your valve seats machined to take out pitting and you have your valves lapped, you know, or machined to remove pitting in the valves, well, you've just set that valve deeper in the head, which means the stem now sits at a higher height than before, and then your install height has gone up, which means you've lost spring pressure at the seat and at all of your lift points that you'd have if it was at the right pressure. And a lot of guys with super heads do not understand that, and they do not do it right, and people have issues with their valve springs floating or various other things. So install height needs to be checked and verified if the head is, well, period. More so if it's been modified than if it's at factory heights. You know, if it's factory new head, factory new valves and all that stuff, it's going to be a lot closer within a range that is generally tolerable to not always check it, but it should be checked. It should be checked and verified. No, that is not lash. No, that's valve, that's install height. That is, if you think about the spring sits in the head, in the pocket in the head, and then it connects to the valve stem, right? If that valve is deeper in the head, then that stem's going to be longer, that spring's going to be less compressed. If you have a thicker valve with a shorter stem, it's going to compress that spring more, and therefore your initial pressures and the pressure at every lift point in there is going to be different. That is not lash. Lash is the distance between the bucket that sits on top of the valve and the camshaft itself. That's a completely different aspect of it. Yeah, man. Yeah, Jack. The Cobb class is extremely generic and extremely incomplete, in my opinion. I actually wrote a bunch of test questions for the Cobb class. So some of those test questions that you take, well, I don't know if you're doing the online class or the in-person class. The in-person class I wrote the questions for. The online class I did not. The online class was EFI University. The in-person certification class, when you go there for the week or 2 or 3 days, that's the one that I helped write questions for and stuff. Alright, so boost goes up and then it goes back down. So I have to adjust my turbo dynamics because at the low RPM the boost went up and then it blew through the target, and then the ECU pulled wastegate duty cycle out, and then it went back down again, and then it went down too far, and then it would try to go back up again. So yeah, then it went down too far and undershot the target. So I wish these things had a derivative control. They don't, and that's really a bummer. So what you have to do is you have to reduce the initial a little bit and reduce the max to prevent the integral from counting up too high and going all the way to the max. So if I reduce the initial, oh yeah, I got the initial way too high. So I'll reduce the initial, and then it'll limit the count up with the integral, and then that will help minimize any spikes. Also, this 90 is just way too much for this turbo at 2800 because we're already pumping at this RPM. So I'm actually going to take this from here, just copy that up here like that, and that is too much for the initial down here, so we'll lower that down so the integral doesn't count up too high and make our boost overshoot the target like it's doing, because we're getting a double shoot. We're getting an overshoot then an undershoot, so we need to stop that ship happening. That like that. That'll help a bunch. We'll see in a second how well it helps, but that should help. Oh, okay, yeah, the EFI 101. Yeah, sure. So one thing about tuning is that the basis for tuning is understanding how engines work. You gotta understand how an engine works to know what to do to it, right? Like, it isn't as simple as you think. For some reason, people think I'm not gonna say for some reason if I don't know. I was that person once. I was absolutely that person once, and I was like, yeah, you put fuel in there and you fucking explode it. Like, what's there to know? There is so much more than that. It's actually ridiculous how much more there is than that. And I was at the top of Mount Stupid around 2008, 2009, where I was convinced that I knew fucking so much about engines. When Paul Yoff from Injector Dynamics, just by talking about fuel injectors, made me realize I didn't know shit. And that was tuning cars. And my tunes were good, but the stuff that really, really happens in engines, I was not familiar with. How injectors worked, to the extent that the guys like Injector Dynamics understand, I had no clue. Like, there was so much more than I ever imagined. And so because of that, one of his discussions that I watched on YouTube, all of a sudden I was like, wow, I don't know anything. Significantly better. The turbodynamics was still off a little bit, but it was definitely a lot closer. And I can't really show you the log because the window doesn't catch it, but before, the number for the error was in close to 10, and now the error number is usually around 2, with the highest point being a 5. So really close. Oh, and that 5 point is during the count up while it's trying to add boost, so it's really good now. Wow, it actually hit the target really well. And almost laid exactly on top of the target. It only overshot a smidge at 3,900. Yeah, that actually went really well. That boost curve was quite a bit better. At least on the log, let's see what the dyno saw. Oh yeah, that looks really good. Clear this, bring that up, grab that one again. Go like this. There we go. Yeah, that looks more like a slightly undersized turbo would look. Not the right one. Alright, so that's my face. We don't want that. We want this. We want the back camera. We want to zoom in. So that upper line there is the boost curve. See, that's quite a bit more like what it should have been before. For a turbo this size, that's what you'd expect. And then if I bring up the previous pole, I'll try and do this one-handed, see if I can do it. Previous pole, you can see the boost went hot. Whoops, you can't see shit. Okay, here you go. Boost is high, then low, then high again. Now this was higher than I wanted at that RPM because the waste do cycle was too high. Now I am intentionally not giving it as much boost as it can make down here because, like I said, this guy's really hard on the car. And so we don't want it to have that kind of load at low RPM if the dude's lugging it in gear or beating the hell out of it. We want his power curve to go better towards red line and encourage him to rev it out where it's safer for the engine to make that much torque and power, right? It's safer up here to have the engine and make power. It's not safe down here to make a ton of power. That's bad for the motor. This helps lift head. This helps destroy main bearings and rod bearings and everything else, promote detonation, whereas up here it's quite a bit better. So the goal is to keep the power higher in the band for this car. And when you have a turbo that's as small as this turbo is, that's really the right way to do it. Because I say it's small, but also as large. As fast spooling with as much power potential as this turbo has, you can really fuck engines up by putting too much boost in too early. Especially if someone, like I said, drives this shit really hard. So, let's see. I guess there's somewhere current building just my buddies. Time to learn more about tuning. Yeah. So anyway, what I was saying is that you gotta know how an engine actually works to be able to tune it correctly, to know why you're making the change. The change can't be like, oh, I just want more power, right? You have to understand what's going on to be able to make those decisions correctly, and how to get it. And see air fuel change and be funny, like I did earlier in the stream where I changed the injection timing. Things like that are important to understand what's going on. Otherwise, you're just guessing. You're tuning based off strictly correlation, which is, as I say, not causation. So it could very well be completely wrong. Your logic on it can be completely wrong. You may or may not achieve the right results, but when something outside normal happens to it, it could cause it to fail if you don't know what's going on. So an example is, I have a video on YouTube called what is it, ignition timing and charge temperature, I think is what it's called, where I go through what OEMs do and how different fuels have different knock tendencies based on charge temperature. And it's important to know that. It's important to know what to do with that information. One thing that a lot of people do, sadly, is they raise the timing, or they remove the protections that the factory provides for increases in charge temp. And that's bad fucking news, to put it plain and simple, because you end up having an issue where when the charge temp goes up, the engine doesn't pull timing down enough, and guess what happens? It breaks. So you need to know what effect charge temp has on engine operation to be able to tune correctly, or you're just gonna have a bunch of broken cars, and you're gonna blame it on something, and they're gonna be wrong, and the fault is gonna be yours. And I don't want my students to make those errors, and I try really hard at teaching people on my channel those techniques or how things work. So I would definitely look at that video and watch it and pay attention to it, because I show you factory tunes, and I give you the basis for why the tunes are that way, and I think it is a very helpful lesson. Sorry, I'm multitasking here, so I'm talking a little slow. Now these steps are because I have different target boosts. So you're like, why isn't it smooth? Well, it's because this upper step here on the right is for sport sharp, and this middle step is for sport, and then the lower step is for intelligent mode. So that's why these wastegate charts have these different steps to them, or that's why it's not smooth. And the same for the boost target. That one is relatively smooth, but you say have these breakpoints for the different targets, and that's why. Alright, so air fuels are a smidge on the rich side, which is good. I like that because I want it to be safe. Because like I said, this guy's hard on it. Boost is not ridiculous. It doesn't come in too soon. It has a nice carry to red line. Runs really nice there. I like that. Timing is not too aggressive. And that's obviously important to keep it from breaking ring lands, lifting heads. So that's good. I think I'm almost done. I'm going to reflash this last map to get everything on all the axes correct, and then do another poll and make sure that all my changes to those axes were correct and play out. And then I gotta go. I got to tune a Porsche at 3, and that I have to go there for that. And I got to tune another car here. I got lots to break into, and I got to get the car on the dyno here to get the VE map, and I can stream that as well if I have enough battery. listening to the streams while I'm at work. Thank you for making them. Hey, no problem. Where do you work? Or what type of work do you do? You don't have to tell me exactly where it's at. You know, I know the address and that shit. Just curious what you do. That you can listen to these streams while you're working. You said listening, so I assume you're not watching as much. So you're probably doing something where you just have the audio going. And there's about a 30-second delay, it seems, on the stream. So, don't be surprised by that. I don't know why. I have it set up for no lag, no delay. And when I do a stream with my phone, there's no delay. I have YouTube set up for 0, I have OBS set up for 0, but for some reason, there's still about a 30-second delay with OBS. Which is weird. I don't know if that's through a YouTube exchange or what. Warehouse work. Backpacks and maps. Oh, interesting. So like RCI kind of stuff? It sounds good. It sounds good. Man, these buttons are gross. I think if I reduce my ABCS right at 5,000 a little bit, I think it'll pick up a little bit of power. We'll see. Maybe just add timing to that spot. I don't want to though. I want to keep the timing low. I want to keep it low and safe. Definitely that. Sport Sharp. Trash control can go, yeah, turn that off. Okay. Let's try this again. Turn that off. Again. Too far. .303. That's not bad. Not bad. I'll take it. Okay, I saw a question come in. Let me see what's going on here. Do you have any ideas or tricks on how to tell if a tuner messed with the Mustang dyno numbers? I mean, does it pass the sniff test? Like, if it seems like bullshit, it probably is. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. You know, like, it's it's probably bullshit, to be honest with you. Like, there's still basic fundamentals that exist, and it isn't like somebody's all of a sudden going to break physics and get these amazing results that nobody else is getting. Like, there's no magic fucking sauce, man. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I try and tell people. Like, there's no magic sauce. There isn't like somebody has figured out some crazy combination of shit that makes more power than the next guy. It doesn't exist, man. It just doesn't exist. The power is the easiest part of all of doing it. It's easy. Like, it's the most static period. You know, like you get on one column on the map. You hit full throttle, and it's like, meh, you know, down one column map. There's this maybe a little tail at the end. Like, air fuel target is going to be almost exactly the same the entire pole. The timing is going to be just a regular ramp, and you're going to be able to throw some boost on it. Like, the power is easy, and then with cam timing, you just experiment. You go, here's 5 degrees one way. Oh, it made less. Here's 5 degrees the other way. Oh, it made more. Oh, it made more. Sweet. Well, let's try 5 more degrees. Nope, it made less. Oh, well, then I was in the right spot by a couple of degrees. Like, there's the power is the easiest part of tuning. And so if one guy magically makes a bunch more power and says he found more power, he unlocked more power, he's full of shit. Plain and simple, he's full of shit. Now, unless it was like we found a limiter in the ECU that was reducing ignition advance and hurting time, or we went into the ECU and we went through the coding and we found a torque limiter that was pulling down timing or pulling down boost. Well, that's different. That means it reduced power by removing timing or by removing boost. That's not bullshit. But for a guy to be like, yeah, I just tweaked the tables more and found more power, well, he's full of shit. He's either full of shit or he was really bad to begin with. Really is what it boils down to. Yeah, probably. I mean, if it's on pump gas, it probably is bullshit. You know, like, yeah, could very well be. So it's if it doesn't pass a sniff test, it probably isn't legitimate, really. And if it's on a Mustang, you should question it. If it's on a dyno, it's just throw that number away. Doesn't matter if they mess with it or not. That's just such a bad dyno that reads. You can get one dyno that reads so fucking high that it's giving you more than flywheel horsepower on the graph. Not even wheel horsepower, flywheel horsepower at the engine. And they come that way from Dynacom. And you get another one that reads so fucking low, it's because the load cell's not even working right on it, and the thing's not reporting data correctly. They're just horrible dynos. And I'll probably get a cease and desist letter for saying that, but it's actually true. And there's a mountain of evidence that confirms that. So if it's a Dynocom on the dyno sheet, just fucking ignore it. And you always know Dynocom because the power numbers, the torque numbers, they're like a red or a blue, and there's like a gradient effect where they fade away the color into the map. If it's a dyno graph off that dyno, it's absolute bullshit. There's not even a hint of fucking truth to that dyno graph. So don't even bother wasting your time with that. If it's a dyno jet is not very screw-withable. That's a word I made up, screw-withable. It's not very screw-withable. It just has a high reading number in the first place. It's just excessively high, 15 to 20% higher than what the car actually makes to the wheels. That's what dyno jets report. That being said, they're pretty consistent, and they're pretty consistent across all of their makes. So in that regard, you can look at that number and say, I don't think the tuner's screwed with it. I just know that it reads too fucking high. It's unrealistically high. But because they're so consistent between all of their models, they have been given approval by racing entities as being the dyno that you use to verify your power to weight ratio in other things, because they are so consistent. They made those the standard, because if they did it with a Mustang, they all read so different from each other, and they couldn't do it. And they're all so easy to tamper with that you can't verify anything off of Mustang dyno. You can't say, you know, that, oh, these two cars, this is making more than the other one, because it could be absolute BS. But since the dyno jet you can't screw with, you know, if one guy makes 300 on a dyno jet, one guy makes 330 on a dyno jet, then chances are that one is actually 30 more horsepower than the other one. Whereas from Mustang to the other, the one that made 30 more could actually make it 100 less. Like, you just don't know because they can be screwed with so easily. What else? Yeah, pretty much just a snip test. If this smells like bullshit, it probably is. Yeah, you know, 400 something horsepower, wheel horsepower on a stock WRX turbo, you know, is a fucking lie. It doesn't exist. And unfortunately, one of the guys I used to consider a friend is one of the guys that propagates that lie. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if he just lost his fucking marbles or what. But yeah, he propagates that lie, and it's sad. It bugs me. But yeah, that doesn't exist. So, anyways, I'm done with this car. 303 is what we hit. Not bad. Makes sense. I mean, it's a 300 and what is this one? 380 or 400 horsepower at the crankshaft turbo, and I didn't push it to the fucking max because I don't want it to fall apart. So it's got a good broad power band, and it's going to have some safety factor in it. And like I said, this guy's hard on it, so I'm not going to give him a car that's got every last bit available in it, because it's just going to fail. Good there. Make sure that my stuff is all saved. Pretty sure it is, but I'm hitting the save button anyways. And I might as well just do one last flash just to make sure. Oh wait, no, I just did it. I didn't tell it reconnects. That's really annoying. It doesn't. Close at my ass tuner because it sucks sometimes. I love cop stuff, but sometimes this program is the buggiest shit ever. I think. I mean, it's the buggiest shit ever on my computers, but I have bad computer karma, so, you know, who knows. Owning a Mustang can confirm. Yes, Travis does own a Mustang. He knows what it's like, and how easy it is to fuck with the calibration. In fact, there's a video on YouTube where these guys take, I think it's a Honda Accord or something. Maybe it was a Miata. I think it was Miata. And they do these mods to it. And then they put on that dyno. And they change the audio clip. And show a dyno graph that's just bigger every time. And it's like 800 at the end. And they use like an F1 car doing a pull as a dyno clip. And then they just altered the calibration of the Mustang dyno to give them this really high power number. That's all I did. I mean, it's literally like 4 mouse clicks, and you go in and just change the calibration. So they just went in and then changed the calibration, did another poll, changed the audio for the poll, but then showed you this dyno graph, and then changed the calibration again, changed the audio clip again, and did it again. It's a really funny video. Yeah, I know, Travis. It's stupid. I don't know why they did it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's just a macro. I want to flash the ECU, so it enables a macro. And in that macro, it disconnects from the ECU and then starts the flashing process. It doesn't seem that hard to me. I don't understand why they got rid of it. But I don't work there. They passed me up for another guy. So I can't tell you. Alright, so I'm going to... What time is it? Fuck, I'm hungry. 1:20. I don't think I have time to do this other car. Alright, I don't know what to do. I'm at this limbo time where not enough time to do something. But I do need to eat. Maybe I'll just go eat and go tune the Porsche. Probably that. Travis, dude, you gotta see my car. I'll have to show you send you a picture. I'll send you a picture right now. Fuck it. I'll send you a picture right now. The door card looks so damn good with the leather on it and the piano black stuff that Matt painted for me. He painted the handles and the interior pieces piano black, and dude, it's really good. Also, when you're coming up, you got to come visit, man. The weather is so nice right now, and you're about to get your brains baked out down there. So, although I'm sure the weather's kind of nice right now. Let me show you this. I'm sending you a text right now, and I'm also including a dick pic because I know you missed those. Just kidding, Chad. I'm not sending him a dick pic. So here's the piano black stuff. Matt painted it for me. I got it in the car. Got it installed. Looks freaking awesome. Looks really, really good. I had to bake them a little more because it was still a little soft. I guess one of the chemicals that they use was making it a little soft. So I threw them in the oven for a little while longer. But I got a picture of the door card that's done and a picture of the door card that's not done. The cheap, shitty one that looks just super cheap, and then the stitched leather one with the piano black. Looks really good. So, oh, shiny, you said. Right on. And, yeah, beautiful day. You gotta come up. And I have doors on the rooms now. Alright. Alright, guys, I think I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go take care of the stuff, and if you have any questions, feel free to save for another stream or shoot me an email, dominic@GetaDomTune.com. You can go to my website. Look at the shop. I have things organized by brand, so the GetaDomTune brand is there. I have products people don't even realize I have right now. I have the battery tie down, which sounds weird that I have something like that, but it's actually a problem-solving tie down, and it really, really beautifies the engine bay because it gets rid of all the threads. It hides all the threads on the J bolts, and it just looks really good. It's easy to install, unlike the factory one. The factory one is a pain in the ass to install. This one's super easy. I slotted it with a retention area where the nut retains it. It's really cool. It works really nice. Yeah, piano black's badass, dude. And it's not bad. Obviously, I do have to. Man, my hair is just out of control. Look at this. I do have to wipe it down occasionally, but it's nice now. So yeah, go to the website if you want. Check out the stuff. Come to Discord. Shoot the shit with me. I'm in Discord every day. Talk to people, answer questions about tuning and stuff. Even in the non-educational section, I'll answer some questions. But there are some questions where I will say, yeah, that's over the line. You got to get the subscription and ask that in the tuning section for me to answer it. But generic questions, mod stuff, you know, some general advice, I do it all the time. Support customers and their tunes through Discord is really easy for me too. But a lot of stuff I still want via email because I need to be able to track it in email and use search and that kind of stuff. So I may at some point say, email me this, and then we can go through things. But yeah, please come to Discord, come to the website, check out the new products I got, and I got more coming. I meet with my machinist on Friday to finalize the dry sump, and hopefully, which was supposed to be already going, but stuff happened. And then the AOS, I think, as well, which has been done for months, design-wise. Need to get them to start building that, and I think that'll be really sweet. AOS is gonna be really awesome. Dry sump is cool too for those that need it. Obviously, not everyone needs that shit. And then I have another dress-up part coming. Probably the only actual dress-up part that doesn't solve a problem other than looking ugly. Whereas the tie-down solves a problem with installation and other stuff too. But the other part I think is the only one I will ever do that's probably just dress-up only. Maybe, we'll see. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate the money. I appreciate the donations. I appreciate your time and attention. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. I may or may not stream again the rest of this week. I have a ton of projects right now. I am so overwhelmed with projects. It's stupid. I gotta get out. I gotta stop streaming because I have too much to do. Everybody's wanting peace right now. It's the season, I guess. So, have a good one. Thanks again. I'll see you.